This next segment is for frozen shoulder, but just to clarify, we want to do everything in the extremity, all the muscles that we have done up to this point before you go into treating the joint capsule. So in frozen shoulder, as I've mentioned before, it's something that I've actually experienced. One of the most painful things I'll remember in my lifetime. It was 25 years ago. So I was like 5 years old. No, I'm just kidding. But it is something like I remember, like it happened yesterday. It started out as bursitis, where I had a lot of pain in the lateral side of the arm. So I limited the motion because of the pain, and it was a real deep ache feeling. And because I limited that motion, and because I guarded that shoulder for several days, the whole entire joint froze up. And that's where the term frozen shoulder comes from. It's because inside the joint, it encapsulates, and then everything, all the muscles and tendons around the shoulder joint become tight to protect that joint, and also because you're guarding. So as a result, then you go from just a little bit of movement to none at all, because it's frozen solid. So what we have found works well in reducing the adhesions inside of the capsule is to use the humerus, and specifically the head of the humerus, to massage the inside. And I'll pull these tendons away so you can see the inside of the glenoid fossa. We're making contact with the head of the humerus into the glenoid fossa, and we are rotating as we're applying gentle pressure to create friction in that joint, which is going to melt away the adhesions. It's one of the best, least invasive methods of releasing frozen shoulder that I've ever learned. And I wish they would have known it when I had it, because I had a more complicated procedure. As we start this, I also want to remind you that you're only going to bring the client's arm out to their pain-free end range of motion. And when you abduct, you'll usually feel a bone-on-bone end feel. And once you feel that feeling, that end feel, that's your starting point. So we're going to assume that, Hank, that's as far as that you can go. That's where we start to feel that bone-on-bone. If Hank will move a little closer to the edge of the table, that will allow me to rest his arm against my body. So this keeps the arm from flopping around. And then I also rest his arm in my hand, just gently like that. Don't squeeze it, just rest it. And then the other hand goes on top of the shoulder. Now, to make contact with the head of the humerus into the glenoid fossa is barely any movement at all. It's a finesse, not a power move. So I make contact, I rotate, I'm internally rotating, and then I traction gently away from the joint. And you do that several times to create the heat. And then when you have heat in the joint, you'll start feeling those adhesions release, and then you can give it a nice stretch. Now keep that shoulder stable. The shoulder joint should not be moving at all like this. It should also always be stable with this opposite hand. Now I'm going to go in external rotation, make contact, rotate, gently pull out. Do your best to keep their arm from flopping around. Concentrate right in on the contact and the heat being made, produced inside of the joint, and then stretch after it's warm, and then traction, release. Then bring the arm to the next pain-free end range of motion and repeat those steps. And just get as far as you can in that section and that treatment, and then we'll be asking them to do some simple home care exercises to keep that joint nice and warm.